if it was really possible to predict the future, I wonder how many psychics were able to predict the pandemic. Hi everyone, welcome to The Humane Factor. I'm Namrita, a human rights lawyer and activist. Now, when people feel lost, some of them turn to friends, some seek out a therapist, and then there are people who look to psychics. According to IBIS World, the psychic services industry in the US accounts for a whopping $2.2 billion. And that's just in the US. Now, there are different types of psychics: clairvoyants, mediums, tarot readers, fortune tellers, and whatnot. There are also many online psychic platforms and hotlines that provide different types of psychic services. Now, these services can range from removing curses or communicating with dead people to looking into your past or predicting your future.
And I can tell you when she will die and what will happen to her family. I love that about me.
Well, if it was really possible to predict the future, I wonder how many psychics were able to predict the pandemic. Surprisingly, there's been a lot of academic and even governmental research into psychics. For instance, the University of Arizona had a dedicated lab called Veritas that studied psychic phenomenon. The US government has also reportedly studied psychic abilities for use during war, and there are claims that psychics have supposedly been involved in solving crimes. Well, if that were true, the FBI or Interpol would have a psychic or two lurking behind the scenes. Anyhow, I don't think governments need psychics. They can already read someone's past, present, and future by using spyware like Pegasus and hacking into people's mobile phones. Now, I'm not going to get into whether psychics are for real or not. But what I am going to talk about is how this phenomenon has paved way for an industry that scams people, vulnerable people, out of millions of dollars.
We are essentially a criminal operation whose only real product is large-scale fraud.
Psychic scams sound like a spectacular theme for a movie or book, but it's not too fun to experience it in real life. Just like it's fun to watch people flying around on broomsticks in Harry Potter. But if people really start selling broomsticks that promise to transport you to different locations, and people spend thousands of dollars buying those broomsticks, it wouldn't be too much fun for the people who buy them when they later find out that the broomsticks can't be used for anything other than, well, cleaning. Take the case of this man from New Jersey who had problems at work. He turned to a psychic for help. The psychic told him that he had a curse which might be devastating for his family and that it had to be removed immediately. She asked him to bring her $9,000 in a pillowcase with 9 white roses, 9 red roses, and magnets. She said she would perform rituals and soon return the $9,000. Now, yearning for this bad karma to disappear, this man did as instructed, scraping together money from friends, a rainy day fund, and an account earmarked for his son's college education. About 5 months after he gave her the money, he lost his job because of the pandemic and was trapped for cash. His attempts to get the money back from the psychic have not yielded a dime, and the police refuse to pursue the matter. But this isn't even the most outrageous story. In 2015, a New York psychic called Priscilla Del Maro pleaded guilty to defrauding a British man called Neil Rice. Now, Neil paid this psychic more than $500,000. Now, this story gets more shocking than you can imagine. Neil was a successful marketing consultant. He had briefly dated a woman called Michelle, but they ended their relationship and Michelle wasn't reciprocating his advances anymore. In a desperate bid to win her back, Neil turned to psychics. He paid Priscilla almost $600,000. Now, Priscilla told him that evil spirits were keeping them apart, and that's why Michelle wasn't responding to him. Now, shortly after that, Neil found out the real reason his ex-girlfriend had ghosted him. And I'm sorry for the pun. She died a while ago.
Be even funnier if she wasn't dead.
Now, you'd think that the psychic would have stopped here, right? But no. Priscilla then told him not to believe that Michelle was dead and that she could get Michelle reincarnated and bring her back to life. In another instance, a mother whose daughter Amanda Berry went missing turned to a very well-known psychic called Sylvia Browne. Now, Sylvia Browne was quite famous. She had her own talk show and had made a career out of televised readings. Now, Sylvia told the mother that her daughter, Amanda, was dead. Sylvia's exact words were that Amanda is in heaven and on the other side, and her last words were, "Goodbye, Mom, I love you."
This is a sham.
Now, the mother died a year later from heart failure. However, Amanda Berry was very much alive after she broke free from a home in Cleveland where she'd been held in captivity for more than a decade.
Back from the dead.
Take a look at this clip.
Brown claimed that missing woman Amanda Berry was indeed dead. She said it in a matter-of-fact way to Berry's mother, Lawana Miller, saying she's not alive, honey. As we found out, Amanda Berry is very much alive. She is one of 3 women who were held hostage in a Cleveland house. She managed to escape yesterday. The 3 men accused of holding her and the other women are now in custody. Berry's mother died in 2006.
Now, some of you might be thinking, how can anyone believe this hogwash? But we need to remember that many people turn to psychics when they already feel vulnerable. Perhaps they're grieving the loss of their loved ones, or they feel stuck and are looking for a way forward. Some of them are lonely and don't have the support system they need and deserve. Now, when it feels like you've hit rock bottom and you are in that emotionally vulnerable state, your sense of logic tends to get clouded, and it's very easy to spiral into a dangerous pattern of thinking where you believe that there are unseen forces impeding you from moving forward or causing you distress. So in that state, it's easy for people to turn to psychics for answers, for explanations. Now, psychics capitalize on exactly this and use that to their advantage. So, calling out people who've been scammed by psychics is a form of victim blaming, and that deflects from the real problem, which is the fact that these psychics do what they do. Now, another reason people believe psychics is that psychic readings can sometimes seem accurate, and one might resonate with what the psychic says about their past or present. And that's sort of how they get hooked and drawn in. But that's because psychics use tactics that can get people to believe them.
I'm kind of psychic. I have a fifth sense.
Now, I'm going to briefly talk about a few techniques that psychics use, which sort of explains why their readings sometimes appear accurate. Now, cold reading is one of the most common techniques. Cold reading combines high probability guesses and broad statements to create an appearance of intuitive perception. A practiced cold reader can quickly obtain a great deal of information by analyzing the person's body language, age, clothing, hairstyle, gender, ethnicity, and whatnot. Now, cold readings include what's called Barnum statements. Now, Barnum statements are statements that seem quite personal, but can actually apply to a large number of people. For example, a Barnum statement can be something like, I sense that you are sometimes insecure, especially with people you don't know very well. Or, I sense that you sometimes get anxious or stressed out. Or, I sense that you have some tensions with a friend or a family member. Now, these statements are true for most people. We all have a friend or family member we're not on great terms with. And many of us feel or have felt insecure about ourselves at some point. And lots of people feel anxious or stressed out. Now, shotgunning is another cold reading technique where the cold reader makes some very general statements and then waits for the subject's response, especially body language.
Let's see if I'm right.
If the subject's response is positive, the cold reader continues and expands that statement. The subject will often voluntarily give out new information and later give credit for that to the reader.
You guessed right.
However, if the response is negative, the reader will try to mitigate the statement and will then quickly move on to another statement. An example of shotgunning can be something like this. I sense a woman in your family with some sort of cancer. It could be your aunt or something like that. Yes? Is she no longer with us? Is she? Oh, she is. Ah, I just sense she's somehow distant. Oh, has she moved away recently? Then that must be it. I just feel a lot of distance between you and her. So you see how this technique works? Now, another cold reading technique psychics use is called the rainbow ruse. A rainbow ruse is a statement which simply can't be wrong, but still sounds like a very convincing description of your personality. Now, the reader simultaneously attributes two opposite personality traits to the subject, leaving them unable to deny the statement. For instance, it can sound something like, most of the time you were positive and cheerful, but there has been a time in the past when you were upset. Or, you were a very kind and considerate person, but when somebody does something to break your trust, you feel deep-seated anger. Again, these statements apply to most people. Everyone has been upset at some point in their lives, and everyone would like to believe that they're kind and considerate. And anyone would feel angry or upset if someone breaks their trust. Now, these are only few of the tactics psychics use. There are so many more. Now, with these tactics, psychic readings can seem accurate, and so people can very easily get sucked in. Now, you must be wondering, how is all this legal?
The real question is this: was all this legal?
How do psychics protect themselves? Well, they put out disclaimers on their websites. And as we all know, not everyone reads the fine print. Now, these disclaimers say that their psychic readings are for entertainment purposes only, and members availing of such services should not rely on or make health-related or legal or financial decisions based on advice provided by a psychic advisor. Now, these disclaimers protect psychics from liability and allow them to operate in the way that they do. So, what do we do then?
What can we do? What can we do?
The solution here is to take psychics for what they claim to be, entertainers, and not people who can help you find answers. If you need help, you should reach out to qualified professionals. You certainly won't have qualified professionals telling you that their advice is for entertainment purposes only. And I know that sometimes things can get really difficult and we are constantly looking for answers. But remember that you're not alone and you deserve to be loved. We may find answers, and sometimes we may not. That's something we don't know today. But what we do know today is that we will eventually grow and evolve. Circumstances may or may not change in the way that we want them to, but we will change. We will get stronger, and that's how things get better. So share this video so that people know that they should take psychic readings with a grain of salt. And please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified when I post videos every Wednesday and Saturday. See you soon.